When doing reports, it's important to make your reports as streamlined as possible. For example, if you've got actuals, budgets, and prior years, you would ideally like to have them in the same format and to just choose a list where you can just choose months and it will give you all the data. When you get to subsequent months, you can just put in new actuals and the budget and prior year figures should effectively just pull in automatically. What I see people do a lot is they pull in the actuals and then it takes them another 2 days to get budgets and to get prior years, just because normally the prior years is not in the same format, it's saved everywhere, and the budget is normally in a format that's very difficult to read. So what tends to happen, they print it out and they type it in, and that can take a day. And the chances of it being inaccurate is also very good. So to just show you a quick demo of what I mean. In this case, we've got actuals and budgets. Now budgets and prior years work on the same principle. So I've got a list here where I either choose month 1 and the figures will change, or month 3 and the figures will change. I've included the VBA where I can just click on the buttons and it will also change the figures. So this is effectively how you want to do reporting. It just works better. So now, the question is, how do you do something like this? Let's just go back to, let's go to a proper example. It's example 8. So now we've got an empty report. So how do I populate this data? Now working with actuals, and we did this in detail in unit 1, where I showed you how to put in actuals. We use the mapping principle to map your TBs. You get a consolidated data sheet and it's all mapped according to our descriptions. So in this example I've already done that. So I've got a consolidated TB where I've got all the information in. So now I can just basically put in the information. So the sum ifs formula works well for this. So your actuals will normally work on exactly the same principle. So what I want to do, I want to sum column D in my consolidated TB. I want to look for the allocation, so that's my range, and I'm searching for that description, and then again I'm going to look for the month, which is in column E, and I'm going to select that description there. So now it's just important to get all the fixings right. The actuals we're not going to copy left or right because it's always going to be in one column, so the column affected fields doesn't really matter. The only important thing here is when we copy down, it's going to copy down. So for example, if we've got a 6 here, when we copy down to the next field, it's going to be 7, and then 8, and then 9. So I think we want to do that because when we go to 7, it's going to pick up a new description and new criteria. So that's correct. The 3 is a problem because when we start copying down, it's going to go to A4, A5, and there's going to be no month in there. So that one we need to fix. So this should work. So let's just, currently we've got nothing in there, but let's just test it and do month 1. So there's month 1 in. So now we can basically just copy that down, and there it works. So now we've done it. We've pulled in our actuals. To get more detail on exactly how this principle works, I'm doing it very quickly here. Just go to unit 1 and go through the videos there. I'm showing in a lot of detail how to do this. But you do this with some ifs, you use the mapping table, and your actuals is done. What's now important, when we do month 2 here, it will also change because we're linking to the same month all the time. Now remember, we want to be as effective as possible. So currently we've got that month. We want to actually type it, select it from a list. So let's just, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go there, so data, list we input here, data validation, we want to do a list, and the source we want to do it on. I'm simply going to use the budget because I know I've got a list there. I'm just going to say OK. So now I've inputted the list. So again, you stand on a cell where you want to do it, you go to data, data validation, you select list, and you just go select the range you want to do it on. And there I've got a list. So pulling in actuals is actually very easy. It's just getting the mapping principle right and putting your TBs under each other in a consolidated data sheet. The problem now comes in with a budget and prior year. Let's first talk about prior years. When you're building this structure for the first time, you normally don't have this consolidated TBs available. which means your prior years is everywhere. So normally when you do prior years, you would get it in sort of a budget format where everything is in columns. Now this makes it difficult, and you can't use this actual principle of pulling in information. You need another principle. When you get to year 2, then it becomes easier, because if I'm now on month 12 here, and I've got all the actuals for month 1 up until month 12, then when I go to next year, I've got the history already. So then my prior years is my previous year's actuals, and then I can use exactly the same principles as I used for getting my actuals in getting my prior years. I just add a sheet called prior year consolidated, and I just pull the information from there. So every time I select a month, it will pull in my prior year automatically. So that's prior years. So that's the only reason I'm only going to show you how to do the budgets, because if you don't have the prior years in that format, you'll probably have to get it in a format that's got the budget format here. So what's our problem here? If we do a normal sum ifs here for budgets, let's just do normal sum ifs. So I'm going to sum in that column, I'm going to search for that, and I'm going to search for that. So now it will pull in information. So that's okay. We've pulled in the first month, but I mean we don't need the first month, we need the second month. So how do we change this? Now, in the previous examples, I also showed you an indirect formula. So if we can sort of type in either, because currently this sum range of us is going to column C. If we can type in something that's going to say, when we change this month on top, then either change it to column C or column D or column E or column F, according to the month that we're selecting. If we can put this somewhere, we can use an indirect formula to use that as part of our sum ifs formula, and that should manipulate the data so that we can change the budgets automatically, and it will automatically go to the new column. So how do we do this? The first thing we're going to need, let's just select month 1 again here. So now we know month 1, that's month 1. I need to tell this program now, if I select month 1, in which column is this? Now I've touched on all these formulas in the first unit as well, so let's just do it again. The first one I want to do is a match. So I want to look up this value, and I want to go look this value up in row 1 in the budget, and I want to search for the exact one. So when it finds it, it's going to give me the column number. So month 1 will be in column 3, because it's column A is 1, column B is 2, so C will be 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say okay, and there that's 3. So even if I select column 2, that will now be 4. So where can we use column numbers and column rows? An address formula. So the row number is 1, the column number is 3, and I'm going to use a 4 because I want to take out the dollar signs. So now I know it's in column C. So let's see, and month 2 is in column D. The next one is I just want to substitute. I want to go to that text. My old text is 1, and I want to substitute that with nothing. So now I've got the C. But now we need to be careful. Remember how an indirect formula works? If I put this in an indirect formula, it needs to look exactly the same as this. So let's just see what's the format of that. See, it needs to look, let's just exit. It needs to look like that. That needs to be the format. So how do I get it in that format? So let's just take out the C's here, because we've already got something there. Let's create something that looks like that C. I concatenate that, a double point, and I concatenate the same C again. So now if I concatenate the budget, now I've got something that looks exactly like my sum range in my sum if. So if I select month 2, it will be budget D. If I select month 3, budget D. So what do we do now? I just say indirect. I put this into my indirect. I have to fix, because when I copy down, it needs to just stay on that cell. I do that, and let's just say copy formulas. And now we're pulling in other information here. So month 1, month 2, month 3. So that's quite handy. So now let's just see, when you do reports, the biggest problem you normally get is that they don't balance. So in this case, we don't balance. So why don't we balance? Let's go check the reasons here. If you can see that our equity is positive and this one is negative, so it means that it looks like we've got a big problem here. So let's just change this. So you can either do that. The problem here is we've got a -1 there at the end. So we can do, let's go to home, let's try this, find and replace. I don't know if it will work. So I want to replace multiply -1, that's not a multiply -1 by nothing. I'm just going to try it on its first two cells just to see if it works. It didn't work. So let's rather go back. Let's see if we add the bracket. Let's try it again. Okay, it doesn't work. So now the best is just to take out this manually and let's just copy this everywhere. The best way you're going to learn in Excel is just by testing everything a lot. And there we fixed it. It's a very nice tip. You can remember that when you mess up your first spreadsheet, just save as it's your next one, and the more you mess up, the better you're going to learn. That's the best way of learning. So now I've changed this. So every time I change month 1 to month 2, it will change. You'll see this changes. Month 4, it will change. So that's a very nice way of doing it. The next step I want to show you. Let's see if we can do all of this in one formula. So first we did the match. So I looked for that in there. Let's just fix it. And it's a 1. So that's the match. Then I inputted this into an address formula and it's going to be 1 and 0. And at the end here, let's just go there. It's going to be 4. Okay. And then I did the address. I did a left. And it was a left 1. So see, I'm starting in the middle and I'm building out. That is how you do formulas. Let's just see what I'm doing wrong here. Okay. Okay, what was the next one we did? We concatenated something because now we know we've got C there. So then we say, I hope this works, budget, exclamation mark, and this result we are getting there, and the same result, and there we are. We've done it all in once. Let's just copy this down, see if it works. Working. So that's how you do it all in once. So it becomes a bit more tricky, but it's possible. And I would suggest when you start out the formulas, just do it in steps, because now I've effectively done every single step in a separate column. If you get to a more advanced level, it's possible to do something like this. I've just proven it.